All right, hi, I'm Ben. You probably, or most of you probably know me. Hi. And I'd like to explain my experiences with having autism. And this is generally going to be pretty subjective, more my experiences and what I've learned. Just a little disclaimer. The autistic spectrum is very broad. It's a diagnosis, autism, but the severity of one's diagnosis it varies a lot. Where you have on one end low functioning, which is things such as mutism, like severe inability to communicate with people, and on the other end you have high functioning, which is where a person just has trouble with communication and interaction with people, but is generally okay with motor skills and learning and things like that. So some famous people with autism are Temple Grandin. She is a livestock and agricultural researcher, and her inventions have made the slaughtering process for cows a lot more comfortable and organized. And if any of you watch American Idol at all, James Durbin, a couple of seasons ago, he had autism and Tourette's. And we also have Emily Dickinson, a well-known poet. It is very widely believed that she could have had autism. So some common characteristics of high-functioning autism are just a delay in motor skills in early development. Like a lot of kids with autism walk and talk a lot later than kids without autism. Trouble with human interaction. A lot of kids, even I, have trouble communicating properly with people. Misunderstanding of figurative language, things such as idioms and metaphors. Like my mom, she'd always say that this is just a bump in the road, and so when something was difficult or troublesome, that it's just a bump in the road. And I never quite really understood that, but now I understand. Obsession over certain items or topics, that is obsessive interest, or yes, and I'll get into that later in the presentation. Strong reactions to stimuli gone unnoticed by others. For most autistic people, sensory input is a lot stronger than people without autism. So while a person without autism can simply focus on one stimuli, someone with autism just takes everything in at once, and it can be overwhelming. Obsessive interest. For most people with autism, obsession over one thing is common, but while someone with autism is focusing on one thing, they have trouble focusing on others. Now, this also ties in with ADD and ADHD, because a lot of people that have been diagnosed with autism also have diagnoses of ADD and ADHD. Now, this image here is a very good representation. Basically, one moment, or someone with autism might be focusing on one thing and just disregarding everything else, or just completely just taking everything in and not really focusing on one thing specifically. Sensory difficulty. People with autism are more sensitive to stimuli. When there is too much or too strong of a scent or a smell or a sound, it can be overwhelming and cause deregulation, which is basically when someone's confused and is anxious inside. Some examples that I know I've been affected by are strong smells and bad taste. That stuff just totally throws me off. Flickering lights, even if it's just gone completely unnoticed by other people, it absolutely, for me, it just really bothers me. Various sounds, like a shift in high-pitched tones, like phones ringing and those kind of things that are just can just be bothersome. What? Oh, sorry. Sensory regulation. Through occupational therapy, a person can learn to recognize things that cause deregulation and how to regulate themselves. I mean, I had an occupational therapist for a while, and she taught me how to understand these stimuli that I was feeling and how to cope with it and how to kind of fix all that stuff inside. And for some, occupational therapy can help someone with motor skills, like if someone has trouble talking or with a stutter or is shaky or things similar to that. Occupational therapy can really help someone by understanding their own body and those kind of things. Human interaction. For people with high functioning autism, often they're very outgoing. The issue is that with communication problems, there's difficulty interacting with other people. So things can be misinterpreted or interpreted incorrectly, such as things that people are saying or doing, and things can seem more provocative when it's simply just supposed to be more of a friendly kind of thing. And this can lead to social anxiety, confusion, and deregulation, like what I talked about earlier. And it can lead to exclusion. If someone's having trouble, other people just might think, oh, this kid is weird, or, I don't really like him that much, So, learned skills. For autistic people, these skills, like things that are picked up by not autistic people, such as eye contact, figurative language. Autistic people don't naturally know that stuff, or can't learn that stuff simply from watching it. People with autism need to be taught these different skills and shown how to understand these things. And that's what speech pathologists do. They help autistic people understand these different ways of communication, because, at first I thought that communication was just talking, and then as I was being taught by my speech pathologist, I learned that there's really a lot more to communication than just speaking. There's eye contact, there's all sorts of nonverbal communication. And we have a difference between thought and speech. So basically, this is kind of messed up, but basically, what people say is not always what they think. And people with autism can kind of take that incorrectly. When someone is trying to say something, but they don't really mean what they're trying to say, that can cause a lot of confusion. And I know that I've had trouble with this in the past. Basically, I had an example here, but the PowerPoint is broken. Basically, someone could say, this is stupid, when they're referring to something that they don't like. But really, what they're thinking is that I'm confused and I need help, or I'm having trouble. I know that I had an IQ test a long time ago, back in the second grade, and I just had to sit in a room for hours after hours, or it felt like it, and I just thought it was the worst thing ever, and I just said, no, this is stupid, I don't like it. But really, it was just overwhelming, and I couldn't express that. And we have the perception of other people. Basically, autistic people they have trouble taking the shoes of someone else and seeing how they look through someone else's eyes and understanding impressions from other people. So I know my speech pathologist taught me that people judge you by the way you act, the way you look, and what you say. So I really learned all this, but before I learned all this, I just disregarded what anyone else thought about me, because I really didn't, inside I really didn't care. But then I learned that impressions really affect what everyone thinks about you, and first impressions are made in just the first couple of seconds of meeting someone, and that can affect what happens for years and how people see you. And in conclusion, for autistic people, social skills don't come naturally, but with help, understanding, and practicing previously mentioned learned skills, those can lead to habits where someone knows all the social cues and social skills and can function in society like a normal person. Thank you.